Welcome to Cinematic Syndrome, where your hosts Bryce Thompson, Brian Hammond, and Cody Ryrie have a sickness.
You're sick.
There's this disease. I think all my friends are getting it.
It's the best collection I've ever seen.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
The Force will be with you, always.
Did you think you were God, Brandon?
The stuff that dreams are made of.
What we have here is a failure to communicate.
Wendy, darling, light of my light.
He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone.
And the medic gets out and says, "Oh my God."
Train don't run out of Wichita, unless you're a hog or a cattle.
I drink it up.
The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
Come near me. Stop. Stop. I don't want to get sick. I don't want any of us getting sick.
We're all gonna get it. And you're getting worse.
I'm getting better.
What would you little maniacs like to do first?
Welcome to Cinematic Syndrome. I am Bryce Thompson, here with Cody Ryrie and Brian Hammond. This is the first episode of Cinematic Syndrome. As you kind of could have guessed from our little intro, we're playing off of the sickness that we have for movies.
Which is real.
This was Brian's.
And it runs deep. And there's no cure.
No.
There's no cure.
We can only support
Sometimes
each other. That's all. So.
And sometimes you just get random spats of it, just randomly all of a sudden. You mean, it comes out of nowhere.
I'm in a constant state of relapse. I'm never in recovery. So
that's true. It comes at the worst of times where you're like, hey, family event, sorry, movie time. But anyways, kind of how we want to do this, if you listen to our previous podcast, the Valhalla Filmcast, you will know that we just kind of talked about one subject and one subject only, and they were probably 30 minutes or so. But this time we're going to expand our show out a little longer and talk about kind of a news and stuff that we watched before our topic. And since this is our first show, we'll throw some news out there and a couple movies that we watched, but we kind of want to just get into introducing ourselves. And we'll get into more of how we want to do that when we get to that point. But right now, let's just start off with some of the movie news that's been going on lately.
Okay, well, the top story for me and for anybody who loves movies should be that we're close. I don't want to jinx it. So here, listen, I'm knocking on wood. I don't want to jinx it, but we are very, very close, according to industry insiders at Variety, I think. To getting another David Fincher movie. The last one we had was it back in 2013 or 14? It's been a couple years.
Yeah, 2013.
And he's very close to signing on for the World War Z sequel, starring Brad Pitt. Now, this will be interesting because it most likely will be the biggest budget David Fincher's ever been given. Because the first film, it cost a lot, but then it made over $500 million or something at the worldwide box office. So Paramount, of course, is eager to get a sequel out there, and they've given it to literally like everybody in town, and everybody in town has turned it down. And now Brad Pitt has apparently gone to his old friend. They've worked 3 times before, him and David Fincher. Mm-hmm. And they're very close to a deal. And now the new guy that runs Paramount is the guy who also greenlit Gone Girl. So he has a working relationship with him that way. So a lot of good previous work. We're really, really hoping. Here's the thing that's exciting for me is I don't think David Fincher, if they came to him and said, hey, you want to do the World War Z sequel? I don't think he would just go, sure. I think he would have to have an idea of what he wanted to do before he would say yes. He doesn't strike me as a guy who just... I mean, he's so meticulous about everything. Like every line of dialogue, every light, inches. There's a story from Gone Girl where they had a camera set up and Ben Affleck went up and turned it down, like the light catching of it made it dimmer by like some infinitesimal amount that no one could tell. And David Fincher came up and glanced in and said, hey, this looks a little dark. Like he's super, super meticulous. So I just can't imagine he would sign on for this movie without having a really good idea of what he wants to do with it. And that's the exciting part, because I don't know what a zombie movie by David Fincher looks like, but I'm excited.
I don't think the world is ready for this zombie movie. I think it's going to just be insane. What I want to know is how much control they're going to have over it. Like,
that's also something that makes me feel good, though, because Brad Pitt is a producer on these films as well. And he has a history of shielding David Fincher from studio interference. Like on Seven, when they wanted to do some other happy ending, and David Fincher was like, well, I'm not going to do it without the ending that I read. I love the ending, and the one that's in the movie now. Brad Pitt is the one that went to the producers and said, well, hire your second choice because I'm not doing it without that ending. And then when they did apparently all of Fight Club, that was the story every day. So, like,
great.
Brad Pitt has a lot of power to be able to shield him from studio influence. So, the first one was PG-13, which is another interesting thing. And I could be wrong. He surprised me before, but I cannot picture a David Fincher zombie film that's not rated R. So,
will it be good? So let's say they're like, okay, yeah, it needs to be PG-13. And he's complied.
That means he knows how to do it. That means he has an idea that fits in that.
I'll agree. I can support that. I agree with that. He knows what he's doing. I have no doubt in him.
I have a question for you guys, because you guys are huge Fincher fans as well as I am. But there's a few that I actually haven't seen. Curious Case of Benjamin Button yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm blind on that. But anyways, what is keeping him from becoming, this great auteur? Like, why doesn't he have free reign over his films at this point? Like, what's the issue there? What's the hang up?
Well, he makes money. Like, the movies all make their budgets back plus enough to be a profit, right?
Yeah.
But none of them make Spielberg level money. They don't, and they don't make Nolan level money. You notice Christopher Nolan can do whatever the crap he wants recently, and that's because his movies make insane amounts of money. David Fincher always makes a profit, but it's never like, because I think that his stated goal in making films is to scar people, and that doesn't usually make as much money as Spielberg, who wants to make you feel happy about your family and about things in life. So I think that's
fair
the whole
enough.
Well,
that's
fair. He definitely has lots of like controversial stuff in his films. I wouldn't say. Well, I don't know. I was going to say not as much as like Tarantino, but I would say it's different. Like Tarantino just like slaps it on the screen and says, "Look, here you go, violence," and Fincher kind of like weaves it in there, and maybe you don't notice it right off the bat, but
there's
I'm not really. I would think that also some of it has to be his relationship with like actors and stuff. Him being known as a difficult director. I can imagine that could be people not wanting to work with him there, but again,
he doesn't seem to have trouble attracting big name actors when a movie is done.
That is true.
Don't get me wrong.
He does good, just like you said.
I love Fincher, but I had a Room 237 moment, Cody, like you did when he said when he talked about Barry Lyndon. I watched the Hitchcock Truffaut documentary, and he was one of the interviewees, David Fincher, and he talked about Rope, how horrible it was and how it should not have been made, and so at that moment he just dropped down like a lot of notches in my book. I was like, holy crap, what are you talking about? And I think it was a deleted scene, if I remember right, and rightfully so. That should not have been in the movie at all. So
that's funny.
I wish I had never seen
it. You could accuse him on things like Panic Room of doing very similar stuff. Like things all in one shot and whatever else. That's really fascinating that he's so harsh on it when there's some similarities there, So, interesting.
But yeah, I think that's the biggest news that we have is David Fincher probably getting another movie, which is super exciting. And yes,
we didn't talk about this. I'm almost positive we didn't talk about this yet. That Split and Unbreakable getting a sequel.
Yes.
And sorry, Brian.
That's all right. I spoiled it myself.
Spoiler alert,
much.
but it's all over. If you look at any entertainment news, we are not the first ones to spoil this. In fact, this will be weeks after this is announced when you finally hear this. But if you like Unbreakable and you like Split, then go watch. And I don't know.
For those listeners, for our long-time listeners, we need to describe what happened. So I text Cody and said, "Hey, have you heard that there's a sequel coming to Unbreakable?" And he says, "How much have you heard?" And there was this long pause, and I was like, "Oh crap! I freaking spoiled it for me." And so I kind of spoiled it myself.
How much have you heard?
Yeah,
because that's funny. I mean,
okay. So
if you haven't seen Split or Unbreakable, then you don't know what we're talking about. But spoiler alert again: Split is a secret sequel or a secret movie in the same universe as Unbreakable, and it's amazing and it's awesome. And I love Split and I love Unbreakable. And I am super excited to see the third film, which they're going to be working on now, called Glass, which is in reference to Mr. Glass, who Samuel L. Jackson played, who is back, as is Bruce Willis, as is James McAvoy, who is in Split, as is Anya Taylor-Joy. So everybody's back, and they're all going to finish up the trilogy. We don't know exactly how. It's coming out in 2019 in January, and it can't come fast enough. I am super excited as long as Shyamalan doesn't screw the pooch. It would suck if he nailed the first two parts and then didn't stick the landing. But I'm having hope, I'm having faith, and we'll see. I'm excited.
Well, I think it's pretty good that he's done so well in those. Because like you've said, Unbreakable blew your mind and kind of got you on his path. And then he's been down in the dumps with a couple of his past few movies. And now he comes back with Split, and everyone's like, "What? It's amazing." So it seems like he knows what he's doing with these kind of movies. So
for those of you, I am pushing hard, and I think Brian and Bryce will go along with this at some point. We're going to do a show on Unbreakable and Split and watch them in their entirety and discuss them, and it's going to be exciting. I'm really excited. So look for that in the future.
Yeah, that is coming. That is in the works. Who knows when? It could be 2 years from now.
It'll happen before the third one comes out. How about that? So it gives us a year and a half.
Promise.
Yes. There we go.
We're nothing but prompt. Right?
That's right.
Hey. Also, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 came out. Haven't seen it.
No.
As
I think
recording.
Next show I'll have seen it by then, and I can talk about it a little bit. So.
Yeah, should we move on to movies that we watched?
Sure.
Do you guys have any to add? I watched a ton recently. So
I rewatched some things, but nothing was new, so nothing I want to mention.
Go ahead. I'll think while you're talking. It was kind of a slow week for me.
So I watched a bunch of movies. Because usually I'm the guy that's like, "Oh yeah, I didn't watch nothing," but I switched it. I watched a bunch. I finished my Mark Wahlberg. The director
Peter Berg.
Of course. Yes. The Mark Wahlberg, Peter Berg, True Events trilogy. The first one is Lone Survivor, then Deepwater Horizon, and the recent one is Patriots Day. I watched both Deepwater Horizon and Patriots Day over the past week, and Patriots Day was amazing. Deepwater Horizon was really good, and I think if I would have watched it before Patriots Day, I would have liked it a little bit more. But Patriots Day just blew me away. Everyone does good, and Mark Wahlberg's the star in the movie, but he's even trumped by all the other actors and actresses surrounding him.
Who else is in it?
That's how good. Hold that thought for a couple seconds. J.K. Simmons, John Goodman.
I didn't know J.K. Simmons was in it. That makes me want to see it even more.
It's good, and he's not even a big part of it. He is.
He doesn't throw a symbol at anybody's head in the movie. So
no, there's not any symbols thrown, but he's still really good. And then you have so many good actors and actresses.
John Goodman's
Mitchell
in it, isn't he?
Morgan.
I didn't remember seeing that.
Yes, John Goodman's in it. So many good ones. So many good
skinny
actors
John Goodman. I saw that in the trailer, and I was like, what happened?
He is skinny John Goodman. He, like, ate some
something.
System or something.
Yeah, it looks good.
Just so great, and, like, the intensity. Like, you hear about the Boston bombings, and I mean, unless you, like, I feel like unless you lived in Boston or where you're out west like we are and didn't really care about news, you don't really know about, like, what happened unless it, like, popped up or you kind of, like, saw it in passing. But I didn't know how intense it was. Like, when they found, like, the two bombers and, like, everything that went around that was very, very intense. And they do such a good job at portraying that and making you, you know, feel like you're a part of it all. It's really great. So I'd say Patriots Day is my favorite of that little trilogy that they've done together. And also I watched Assassin's Creed, which we could go on a little bit of a rant about Assassin's Creed and the video games. I don't think they've done it yet. I don't think they've made the video game
Fassbender couldn't pull it off, huh?
Represent. I mean, Fassbender's an amazing actor, but it's difficult because you have to think about, like, a guy who plays video games. In just, like, the first Assassin's Creed, you've spent, like, at least 8 hours, you know, playing through this game. So you're with the characters, and then expand it out to however long the Assassin's Creed universe has been around. And you spent that many more hours with this video game and the characters and the story, and you know how it all works, and then try and throw that into a 2-hour movie with your own lore and everything else. It just makes it difficult. And so, I mean, there's things that are really cool about it. Like, don't get me wrong, I think it's a good movie, but it's also, it makes it difficult, you know, to do that. Which there were some really cool parts, like the Animus, how they make the Animus. In one of the Valhalla Filmcast shows, I talked about how it looks kind of stupid, and I don't understand how it kind of grabs him and, like, moves around. Because in the video game, it's just like a table that they lay him on, and it, like, gets into their brain. But with this, it makes it more exciting for the viewer, because I don't think it would be exciting to just watch him lay on the bed. You know, that wouldn't be exciting. But this, like, moves around with him. So, like, when his ancestor, like, jumps or, like, kills people, he is doing the same actions as his ancestor in the past is doing. So that's really cool and all interesting. But again, I can't say that this has taken the video game movies anywhere super spectacular. I do think they're on a good path if they keep up with, you know, World of Warcraft just Warcraft and Assassin's Creed. I do think they're moving in the right direction, but not 100% yet. Close. Also, The Founder, which I don't know if we've mentioned this before, but Cody, you've seen The Founder and recommended it to me, and it is great. It is so good. Michael Keaton does such a good job, and it's
everybody. I loved John Carroll Lynch is great in it. Nick Offerman, fantastic in the movie. I mean, just everybody was so good, and the period setting is done great. It's a story you haven't really seen before. It was funny, and then it was everything you wanted in a movie. I really liked it.
So I went to training over the week, and I just barely watched this movie. And so when I walked into my training, one of the instructor guys looked exactly like Michael Keaton. And I was like, I couldn't, like, pay attention at all, because I was like, oh my gosh, Michael Keaton is, like, right there. It's so amazing. It was very distracting, but it was awesome.
You should have got a picture with him.
Exactly like him.
It was awesome.
I should have. Next time I'll do that and be like, look, it's funny. But The Founder is really great. Also, Hell or High Water, and I thought that was a very interesting movie. It again, I feel like West Texas. No offense to people who live in West Texas, but if you do have a complaint, complain to the filmmakers that are making movies about West Texas, because it seems like not a very fun place to go to. Just from all the I mean,
it's not a fun place to drive. I've driven it, and it's nothing. So,
I mean,
that part's right.
From Hell or High Water, it just kind of gives you just like West Texas must be like really creepy feeling because
I understand why everybody really went nuts for it because it is really well done and
yeah. Oh, yes,
I love
totally
the three
agree.
actors, Chris Pine and Jeff Daniels and Ben
Bridges.
Foster. Is that his name? Or Jeff Bridges? Yeah, that'd have been interesting, wouldn't it?
Ben Foster.
Different movie. No, but for some reason I'm holding it at arm's length after I saw it. Like, it's not a movie that I like super embrace.
I agree.
It's really well made and everything's great, and for some reason I just can't all the way get on board, and I don't know why. But
dude, I totally just answered one of my questions that we're going to answer soon. Whew. Boom.
Nice of you to leave your homework till the podcast.
I know it. Look at that.
Right? Hey, what are you going to do? But anyways, yeah, lots of movies this week. I don't think I'm going to mention them all because there's a bunch of them. But those are the ones that I wanted to highlight.
I did want to hear your opinion of Magnificent Seven because I haven't watched it yet, and I wanted to hear what you thought.
I liked it a lot. I have not seen the original one. At least I don't think I have.
Original ones because it's Seven Samurai and then Magnificent Seven and now this. And Seven Samurai should be required viewing for anybody who loves movies. But we'll get around to that. Sorry.
So my first comment is the main bad guy, Peter Sarsgaard.
Yeah.
Ooh, sorry if I messed that up. He looks like a bad guy in an older movie. Yeah. What's that movie with Duvall and what's his name?
Michael Caine, Secondhand Lions. Is that what you're thinking of?
No. The Western where they have the really cool shootouts.
Open Range.
Yes, Open Range. He looks like the bad guy from Open Range, but I don't know if
he's
he
not.
is. I don't think
Peter Skarsgård is not in Open Range. So.
Okay, he just looks like him, and maybe he just is like the perfect Western bad guy. But
can I say this, Brian?
He does a great job.
If you remember correctly, we had an old show a long time ago where I talked about Open Range and how good it was. So that's 2 recommendations.
Oh, it's
for you,
so
Brian,
great! You have not seen Open
Range.
So. It's amazing. Like, it's so good. We'll probably, if I can muster it, do a show on it because it's so good. It's like the best cheesy Western awesomeness ever. Like, great. Like, anything in a Western, Open Range.
Sorry,
but,
go ahead.
Anyways, the movie we were talking about, The Magnificent Seven, it's really good. I think I liked all the guys in it. Denzel, Chris Pratt, Ethan Hawke, all the other 7 that are in there.
Nice cover.
A lot of them are kind of like that I'd never really ever heard of, like Manuel Garcia Ruffalo. Never heard of him.
He's related to Mark,
the Mexican dude in it. I don't know. Maybe. Kind of seems like he could be. Kind of looks like him a little. And then the Asian dude, don't know how to say your name. Just Lee's your last name. Sorry, buddy. But he's probably the coolest one. Billy Rocks. He's awesome. I mean, I think that's what's so good is you kind of expect him to have like a mixed cast, and then it is, and it's even better than you could even expect. And they just do such a good job.
All right, I'm going to watch it now. You sold me. For some reason, I've been hesitant about it on Redbox, but I'm sold now. I'll watch it. So
no, it's really good. Like, I would give it a solid 8.
Wow.
On the scale of movies, I'd give it a solid 8. It's decent. Like, I would watch it again.
We don't get a lot of Westerns nowadays, so I should probably cherish it when I get it. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, definitely. I agree with that. It's really good, and the 7 are awesome. Definitely watch it. But yeah, those are the movies that I wanted to touch on.
Okay.
So we can move on to the questions. So, like I mentioned before, how we kind of wanted to do this first episode is kind of answer some questions about our movie tastes, I guess. But Cody found a questionnaire by Roger Ebert. His movie lover questions. Is that kind of
I think it's the movie lovers questionnaire. Like, but yeah,
so we're gonna answer those questions. How? I guess some history on them. How did he ask? Like who? It
was put out there, as I understand it, for if you meet another movie lover, and sometimes it's hard to all you talk about is I love this. Yeah, I love this too. I love this too. And he said it's. He wanted to provide some questions so you could get into deeper conversation, things maybe you wouldn't think to bring up, and it does that.
Cool.
I thought they were great questions, things I would have never thought of.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. So there's about I don't even know how I didn't
there's
count
27
up how many questions there are, but 27 questions, and we're gonna answer them. How we're gonna do it is we're gonna ask the question. And then each give an answer to it, kind of discuss it, talk about it, and then move on to the next question. So, we'll just start with the first question. The first question is, where did you grow up and what was it like? How do you want to start out answering it? I guess we never talked about this. Just random, or just each person go first, or what?
Sure. You read the question, you answer it, and then we'll go around.
Okay, I'll answer it. So I grew up in a little town called St. Anthony, Idaho. It's small, teeny, and it's very Mormon, which is important to my growing up. But also, in my area of eastern Idaho, it's the more rebel of the cities or towns around it. It kind of has that rebel edge to it.
Maybe because it's named after a
very
saint.
Important.
Yeah, there's a little Catholic
right?
influence there.
Yeah.
But so if you can imagine when I say very Mormon and then it has the rebel side to it, what we're up against in the area.
You're the black sheep of southeast Idaho, huh?
Yes, definitely. But yeah, so that's kind of where I grew up, in a small religious town. Not a city, town. But, so yeah, Brian, go for it.
I grew up in a little town that isn't so little anymore, but Middleton, Idaho. It's in the Boise Valley, that area. And it really was kind of the perfect place to grow up, at least looking back now. Back then, probably didn't think that, but it was a good place, and lots of small town feel, stores that were mom and pop type shops and stuff. So yeah, that's kind of where I grew up. And Cody, what about you?
Okay, I didn't know that. I knew Bryce was from St. Anthony. I didn't know you were from Idaho too. I don't know why I thought you were from somewhere else, but well, I'm going to break the mold because I am not from Idaho. I'm from a mid-sized town. It's not too tiny because it's the capital, but a town called Frankfort in Kentucky is where I'm from originally. And it's rural-ish. I mean, it's the capital, so it has capitol buildings and stuff, but it's not huge. There's not a lot of people. It's very humid all the time. It was founded in 17-something, so it's got a lot of buildings from the 1700s down in the old part of town and in places where you'd put your horse and things. And that was one of my favorite things growing up, was going into the library was built in 1801 or something, and so going through all the old places in the library and going on historical tours and stuff. I liked that a lot. That was one of the things I did. So yeah, I'm a transplant to Idaho. I am not from here. I am from the South. So,
which can be good or bad, however you perceive it. All right, next, moving on. The question is, was anyone else in your family into movies? If so, what effect did they have on your movie-going tastes? I didn't really... Not a lot of people watched movies in my family.
Really?
In fact, yeah, I like all the classics. Like everyone, you can probably notice if you listen to any of our previous shows. But I have had to find a lot of movies, kind of by myself, because we just didn't. I don't know, but not really. I didn't really watch a ton of movies like Star Wars. I hadn't watched Star Wars for until I was at least, like, I didn't really care for one, but also for a long time I hadn't seen them. And in fact, I can probably, dude, this is getting into territory.
Okay.
I don't know if I've actually sat through all the Star Wars movies.
What?
I don't know. I think I have with my wife.
I'm having
like
a
once,
what? I don't.
What, again,
Again,
I blame that on my growing up. I blame that all on growing up. But yeah,
jump
to
one of the last questions. Have you ever lost a friend over it? Because you're about to lose Cody, I think.
Right.
I can't believe that you haven't.
I think I have. I also fell asleep through one of them.
Okay.
You guys can't see Cody, but he's visually agitated. He's got his fingers up by his mouth and just... This is great. I like making Cody feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm going to have to do... I don't know how I'm going to remedy that, but we're going to have to do something to fix that.
I mean, I've seen them. It'd only be once, though, that I've seen I've seen all the newer ones. All of them.
So
like
wait.
Anything that's new,
so
I've seen them all. The older ones I've seen.
You've seen all the prequels for sure.
Oh yeah,
it's getting worse. Cody is now wiping the sweat from his brow.
And I totally understand like why people hate the prequels. Obviously, I get it. But again, that's kind of what I...
All right, well, this is not what the show's about, so I'll let it go for this time. But I'm a little nauseous now. I don't know what my world's spinning over here.
See, this is good stuff. We're growing as a filmcast right now on this screen. On this, I don't know what this is. This thing. Anyways, Brian, go for it.
Okay, so yeah, I was raised on a healthy diet of film. I remember, every Sunday watching The Wonderful World of Disney. We'd always pop homemade popcorn, and so it was kind of an event. And but I don't think anyone became like obsessed with it as I did. I worked in a video store growing up in Middleton, Adventureland Video. And so I really was kind of a sponge, just taking it all in. I remember sitting in my kitchen till way late into the night until I'd see the flag. They'd play the national anthem, watching Fox as they'd, play movies and reruns from old television shows. So I really kind of was brought up on watching television and film. I did other things. It wasn't my whole life, but it was a big chunk of it. So, yeah.
Cool. So, was anybody else specifically in your family into movies, though, or?
There was a time when, my older brother, we watched a lot of movies together. He doesn't watch, as many anymore. But, I was... it was a little 13-inch black and white television. I just sit there glued in front of the screen for hours, in the kitchen counter table, just watching it. So, yeah, it was kind of a solitary event for me, but we did go to the theaters often, and, it was kind of a family event as well, but I really took it to a new level, I think.
That's cool. I think I might have known that you worked at a video rental store, but it was just a glancing thing. I'm glad that one of us did, since they're now an artifact of the past, since they no longer exist.
It's quite sad. It's quite frustrating too, because there's times when, I just want to go rent a DVD or a video tape, and you can't. It's just impossible. I remember me and my wife when we first got married, and that wasn't even that long ago. And we'd go to the video store and rent movies, and then, of course, it went out of business. Thanks a lot, Netflix.
And Redbox,
jerks.
Yeah.
And Redbox, you big jerks. It's just not as fun to go to Redbox as it is compared. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and my movie collecting really kicked into high gear once the video stores went away. That's when I really started. I've got to buy it because I can't get it anywhere, and that was my justification for my sickness. Anyway, I'm glad that one of us actually worked in the place. I worked in the movie theater when I was in high school, so And Bryce worked in a hotel, so somehow I'm sure that fits in. But
Sure. Well, we can. That wasn't really when I was in high school. That was more when I was like married and like stuff, and like just like a couple years ago. But hey, it works.
Anyway, let's see.
All right.
Well, my answer to the question, my mom was way into movies, and I've talked about this before in our old podcast, but probably too much into movies, and maybe the wrong kind, because famously I've talked about she showed me The Thing from 1982 when I was probably way too young to watch it. And I've just recently, in the last couple months, been able to watch it again since then. It's the first time I've been able to watch it since I was little because I was so scarred by it.
That's so
she showed us a lot of really good stuff, a lot of scary movies, a lot of older stuff. My grandma, her mom, my mom's mom, introduced me to a lot of black and white movies. Most famously, she introduced me to The Third Man, which is a top 10 now. And it's on a piece of paper. I have written it down, so it's officially part of a top 10. It's not a top 50. It's top 10. So, and it's in there. So, yeah, I have her to thank for that. And as a family, we used to watch whatever the most recent blockbuster was. You know, we'd get the VHS, and I would sit in my little beanbag in the front of the room, and we'd watch it. I remember watching especially the Kevin Costner Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves was a family favorite for a long time, and the first Mission Impossible one we watched, I got that in my stocking in the VHS for Christmas, and we watched those. So, you know, nowadays it's kind of funny because I can look at the things I like, and I love these big blockbuster series. I still love the Mission Impossible series, which is still going. I love the Marvel movies, Star Wars. So these big blockbusters we all watched as a family, I still love. But also I love the older black and white stuff. And I'm starting to really develop a healthy love for scary movies, too, which has been aided and abetted by Brian somewhat.
You're welcome.
So yeah, that's my background. A lot of help from my family in my movie love.
Can I add something else to mine? Because it doesn't come up later on. But the first experience I remember with VHS was back when you had to rent the players because it was too expensive. We came over to Southeast Idaho, where my dad was from, and we went to a store and rented it. We rented Fiddler on the Roof for the adults to watch and Flash Gordon for the kids to watch after. And I remember sneaking up to watch Fiddler on the Roof because I was just so fascinated by it. And they'd keep calling me downstairs to the basement. And so those are the first two movies that were ever rented by my family.
Wow.
So, yeah.
One good one and one that's more questionable. But yes, go ahead.
Okay, so next question is what was the first movie you remember seeing, and what impression did it make on you? I don't really remember the first movie that I ever really saw, but I imagine it was probably 101 Dalmatians because I wore the tape out. Like it didn't work anymore. And so I imagine that's probably the first one, and I imagine I really liked it.
You wore the tape out. Yeah.
I don't know if it had a lasting impression. I remember being super excited to see the live action one when it came out and being horribly disappointed.
Oh, man.
Oh, well. I remember being late. That's another thing. It comes up in the question before. Is like going to the theater with your family. Late. Constantly. Always. But... which could probably mean why I have such an obsession of being there like an hour early now.
Trying to rectify it, huh?
Yeah. So yeah, I that was probably be the first movie that I watched was 101 Dalmatians, the cartoon on VHS. But I sure left an impression on me. Yeah.
I don't remember the first movie I actually saw, but I do remember the first movie I saw in a theater, like my first theatrical experience, and that was E.T. And that came out in 82, and so doing the rough math, I was, about 4 or 5. And I remember just being, obviously in awe and just glued to the screen. And Bryce is really mad at me for saying E.T. Are you okay?
I don't know. No, I mean, I understand it's probably a great theatrical, wonderful movie. I'm just never going to experience it. And That's
so,
okay.
Yeah, it obviously did make an impression on me. It's a classic, and I still revisit it. I've owned it on every media format. One of the first purchases I get when a new format changes. So, yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Great. See, I say again, I'm the same as you all. I don't remember what exactly my first movie I ever saw.
It's hard.
I was trying to think. I think it might be the Disney Robin Hood. I have like really, really dim memories of like like rattling around in there somewhere. But the one I could think of was when we were watching America's Funniest Home Videos, which that and Baywatch never got missed in my house. Those were the two must-see TV events during the week. I don't know if I should. Well, anyway, we were watching America's Funniest Home Videos, and there was some video that had a guy dressed as Darth Vader in it, and I was so confused when everybody else was laughing. I was like, "Who the crap is that?" And my mom did what I did to Bryce earlier, and was like, "What? What? And but it was her fault since I hadn't seen it, and I had never seen Star Wars, so. We went. My memory is we went like right then. I'm probably sure we didn't do that. We probably went like that weekend or something to the local grocery store, which had a VHS rental place in it. And we rented the first Star Wars, and we watched that. And that is, like I said, that's the beginning of my religious experience with film. It was incredible to see that at that age. I must have been 7 or 8, so it was the perfect age to see it. At the perfect time and. To have no knowledge of it beforehand. So I know I saw other movies before then, but that's the first one that made a big impression.
Cool.
I was just going to add one more movie that I watched as a little kid. Is Banjo the Woodpecker Cat.
What?
I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It is so amazing. So like this woodpecker cat, he's like this crazy cat, and he goes to Salt Lake City and meets this. It's so great. It's so good. It's like you can tell it's made in 1979, and it's old and awesome and wonderful.
Vaguely sounds familiar to me.
It's very good. You should look it up and show it to your kids and make their days and make them love movies forever because it's so great and awesome. Yeah, I don't really know how to describe this movie other than it's very interesting and you should definitely watch it. Anyways, moving on to the next question. What's the first movie that made you think, hey, some people made this, it didn't just exist, there's a human personality behind it?
What a great question, huh?
Yeah, and hard.
Yeah. Very hard. I haven't.
Bryce still hasn't had that. He's like, what?
Right? Did people make these? I would have to say probably something along the lines that Martin Scorsese made, because he's the first director that I actually really cared about and was really interested in. It's probably something along the lines of something that he did probably would be the first, because he's the first director that I actually cared about and looked into and tried to watch his movies that he made. But probably something along the lines of him. I don't know exactly what it would be, but I'll say probably Martin Scorsese's movies. Something around there.
Like I said, this was a hard question for me because, I grew up knowing that, movies existed. They, from creators, people created them. I remember the name Spielberg a lot and being excited when his movies came out. I remember, Schindler's List and when I was in high school. And so I remembered that, but to answer this, the one that I first remember saying, wow, this is his stamp, would have to be Pulp Fiction. I saw Pulp Fiction before Reservoir Dogs, and it was kind of a religious experience for me as well. From that moment, I was like, this is a work of art that he has created, that his stamp is everywhere on it. And so that's kind of the first time I started kind of paying attention to directors besides the obvious, Spielberg or whatnot. So I'm going to say that one, I think.
Well, I realized when I was going to answer this question that I had 2 moments, and they both happened because of John Williams, that he did this to me. I think I was going back and listening to some of the older Valhalla Filmcast shows, And this actually came up in the very first show we ever did, so I'll give both examples. The first one is we used to watch Jaws, and Jaws came on TV, like, in my memory, every weekend when I was growing up. But we'd only see the last part on the boat. It's the part we only saw. I never saw him on land. I only saw the last part in the boat. And then one time me and my mom caught it from the very, very beginning. And there's like this sailor song that Robert Shaw sings some part of the movie early on. And then at the end, John Williams in his score, he plays that tune when Robert Shaw thinks he's going to die at the end. And like I said, my brain lit up and I was like, wait a minute. It's like, that's he didn't sing that. It was in the music. That meant that somebody watched it and thought I should put that in the music, and they wrote the music, and that lit my brain up. And then the other one was E.T. when E.T.'s out with his sheet on, and then a little kid dressed as Yoda walks by, and you hear the Yoda theme from Empire Strikes Back played. And again, my brain went, wait a minute, this isn't Star Wars. How can they play the music? Oh, the same guy. Wait, what? Like, there's something in my little kid brain both times, like synapses went off, and I was like, "Hey, somebody wrote the music for this." And then it kind of extrapolated to, "Hey, somebody put the lights up, and somebody put the camera somewhere, and somebody, and so that's the very early germ." And I was super excited when a couple years ago I read Simon Pegg give an interview. And he said that the moment he realized that movies were made by people and he wanted to be involved is when he heard Yoda's theme played in E.T. and I was like, hey, wow. Nerds unite. That's the exact same experience I had. So, yeah, I have very specific memories, cool. And John Williams is responsible for both of them. So,
yeah, E.T., the end credits theme, I would listen to that over and over and over with E.T., So, yeah, that was a good one. Music's powerful.
Yeah,
it is. All right. The next question is, what was the first movie you ever walked out of? I haven't actually walked out of a movie because it was bad. The only movie I've actually ever walked out of was the latest SpongeBob movie. And that was just because there's some kids that had really horrible parents and let them go to the theater by themselves. And so we couldn't do it and we left. It actually turned out that it's actually a bad movie, and so I'm kind of glad. But at the time I didn't know, and so I can say that I've never walked out of a movie because it was bad. I mean, I've been to horrible movies in the theater, but I just stuck it out. So maybe that's just my fault. But so no, I haven't really ever walked out of a movie.
I'm kind of the same boat with Bryce. To this day, I don't recall ever walking out on a movie. There's the only film that I can remember that comes close to that is I wanted to walk out as I was horribly, offended by having to sit through that film, and that's entitled Darkness from 2002 with starring Anna Paquin. It was just so terrible and horrible, and I remember thinking that.
Yep.
Yeah, I was like, I can't believe... my jaw was dropped in multiple scenes. Like, really? They went there? It was just like they were trying to cut and paste every trope out there and, put it together and trying to make a film. And I was just... It was horrible. And I actually want to revisit it, soon. So to see if it was really as bad as I remembered. Because, man, I really hated it. So...
Yeah, the movie Seven Psychopaths. I actually had to ask my wife if we actually stayed through it or walked or if we left, because I couldn't remember. Because we talked about it, we were like, "Should we leave?" And we're like, "No, it's got to get better. It's got to get better." Never did. Horrible movie. Again, I want to revisit it too. I think it'd be interesting to just see if we were just in a bad mood or something wasn't, because it can't be that horrible. I mean, maybe it is. I don't know, but yeah, Seven Psychopaths was my movie that I should have walked out of but didn't.
Well, like I said, mine wasn't because I was super offended or anything, but like I said earlier, I worked in a movie theater in high school, and so that meant that I could go see anything I wanted to for free. And it was the first Tomb Raider with Angelina Jolie. I remember I had nothing to do that afternoon, so I went to go see that, and I remember about halfway in, I was so bored. I mean, it wasn't offensively bad, it was just so bland. and kind of dumb. And then I had that moment where I was like, hey, I didn't pay for this. I don't have to sit through this. I have no money invested, so I got up and left. And that's the only time I've ever left a movie. Because if I pay for it, I'm probably going to stay.
Right? Exactly.
Have you ever seen the whole thing to this day?
I haven't, and I never watched the sequel, believe it or not. So, yeah.
Cool. Moving on. Next question. What's the funniest film you've ever seen? Mine's probably Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. That's going to be a common theme. But, again, probably any Will Ferrell movie, I think, is absolutely probably hilarious. So not counting Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, because I find it funny for reasons that I laugh at parts that aren't funny at all.
When I watched it and you were like, you told me the funniest parts, I'm sitting there like, this isn't funny. This is sad.
No, it's not funny at all. But it's so hilarious. So hilarious. It makes me crack up and cry because it's so funny. And it's probably like the saddest part of the whole time.
Well, no, not but it's up there.
Hilarious.
You sick.
Up there.
I don't know.
It's so funny. Oh, I love it. So, not counting that, any Will Ferrell movie I think is just awesome. Hilarious.
My funniest, I have a lot of them that I grew up on that make me laugh, but the one that I go to probably the most amount of times would be What About Bob from '91. It's just a classic. It makes me laugh every time. Bill Murray at his best, and Richard Dreyfuss. They really have some on-screen chemistry there. And I'm still waiting for a Blu-ray release, Disney. So get off your butts and do something.
That's right, huh? There is no Blu-ray of that. Is it on Netflix right now? I think it is, isn't it?
If it is, it might be an HD transfer. I need to investigate that.
Let's see. My answer, the one that I've revisited the most and that I think is like funniest, maybe my favorite funny movie, is Groundhog Day. Is the one I would probably put up there. I like it's just a personal preference over What About Bob. I love What About Bob too, but I don't know, something funny about Bill Murray committing suicide 18 times. I don't know why, but I really enjoy that section of the film, and I really enjoy when he's telling the groundhog how to drive. I love that part too. There's just so many. I could name them all night. But the funniest viewing of a movie I ever had was Tommy Boy. When I saw it with my brother, we were visiting my grandparents' house and they had HBO. Come to think of it, that might have been a bad... Anyway, we were in the living room. They had HBO. Nobody was around. We woke up at 4 a.m. And thank goodness Tommy Boy was playing and not something else. But we watched it, and we'd never heard of Chris Farley. We'd never heard of David Spade. We'd never heard of this movie. And I think I was 12 and he was 13. So it was ordained by fate that we watched that movie in that way. Because I thought I was going to throw up. I was laughing so hard. It was so funny. And I still like it to this day. I still think it's funny, but... It was never as funny as it was that perfect time that we saw it. So, yeah, there's my dual answer.
Cool. Moving on. What's the scariest film you've ever seen?
You skipped Saddest. Skipped Saddest. Yeah.
Oh, I did? It's coming up.
I have them reversed on mine. Sorry. As long as you don't skip it, that's fine.
Oh, wait. No, never mind. I skipped Saddest. What's the saddest film you've ever seen? Hardball. Keanu Reeves coaches some kids in the project area. I don't remember if it's New York or I don't remember where it's at, but it is I don't really watch a lot. I watch a lot of violent movies, and so these next categories I don't really dive deep into. But Hardball, I remember watching it as a kid, and which I don't know if I probably should have been watching as a kid, but I remember it just being so sad at the very end. Huge spoiler. It's been out for a long time, so if you haven't seen it, I'm gonna spoil it. But this little kid gets shot, and oh man, that's rough. You take this little kid, and he's the coolest little kid on the entire baseball team, and it's just happy days. And then he gets shot, and you're like, why? That. I think that's the first time I ever been faced with that kind of controversy in my life too, in a film. Just why did you do that? Like, let's just bring it home. Everything was good, and then no, you rip it apart. So, yeah, Hardball.
That's funny because I was trying to guess what you would say to some of these, both of you, and I swore you were going to say Boy in the Striped Pajamas because you gave me like.
Oh my gosh!
I didn't have to watch that movie because you like told me the entire plot for like an hour one time.
I did. I think we recorded it. Maybe we didn't record it. I think we recorded it, dude. It's that. Yeah. If Hardball wouldn't have made such a deep impression into my soul, Boy in the Striped Pajamas, dude, that is a rough movie. Like that makes you, it makes my jaw drop just watching that. You're like, oh my, oof. Yeah, boys. That's a very close runner-up. Okay. His saddest movie. That is totally forgot about that.
All right. So I consider myself a pretty masculine guy, right? But there's actually quite a few.
The prelude. That's awesome.
There's actually quite a few movies that I like literally shed tears on. A few of them, It's a Wonderful Life, West Side Story, and the most surprising is Adam Sandler's Click. Yeah, I cry in that.
Oh yeah, that's a horrible movie. Not like horrible.
Yeah, but I wouldn't consider them like sad movies. And so as a kid, like probably the saddest was Swing Kids. I was kind of obsessed with that. Owned it on VHS and wore it out. Cry every time, and it's just sad. It deals, if you don't know what it's about, it deals with the Holocaust and the more specifically the Nazis and the, what do they call it? The junior. Whatever, the training that they all enlist in or whatever.
Hitler Youth. The Hitler Youth.
Yeah. It kind of follows these kids that love jazz, American jazz, which is obviously illegal over there, and so it kind of follows this group of kids through the highs and lows of them trying to come to terms with themselves as person and all that. So, anyways, but as an adult, I would probably say Schindler's List. Because the content that it deals with, the way it's shot, it's very, epic in its scope. And I hate to mention this in the same breath, but Aronofsky's Requiem for a Dream. That's probably the saddest film that isn't inflicted by other people, like Hitler, but by your own self and your own vices. It's just horribly sad and tragic. So. Those are mine.
Mine's a Studio Ghibli animated film, and it's Grave of the Fireflies. And if you haven't seen it, it's this movie, and Disney did not release this one in the U.S. So somebody else did this one. But true story-ish. It was written by a guy who lived through the aftermath of the atomic bombing in Japan, and he was a teenager, and his mom dies in the bombing, and he's supposed to take care of his little sister, who's probably 4 or 5, and things do not go well for them at all through the entire movie. And so it's also the answer to a question later on, so I'll save some of it to talk about then, but yeah, that's the one, Grave of the Fireflies.
I've actually know several people that have seen that. I have not seen that yet, but that say that they'll never watch it again.
That's the question that it's going to answer later on for me. So anyway.
All right. What's the scariest film you've ever seen? I avoid scary movies. My wife really likes scary movies, loves them, and so she calls me lots of mean names when I don't watch them.
I can picture that.
But she calls me a sissy, and then I need to man up and watch them. But I can't. I don't like being scared. It's so much fun when you're in the moment, oh, I'm scared. But getting to that moment is horrible, and I can't do it. But so the one that I've seen would probably either be Signs or The Ring. Would probably be the scariest ones that I've seen. I really liked The Ring. I thought it was really good. And I really like Signs too, so hey, maybe I should check out more scary movies. It's just so hard. But anyways,
Signs was legitimately. I remember seeing it in the theater, and man, everybody in the audience was screaming and hiding their eyes, and yeah, so that was great.
That was good.
the part that it's been like, whenever I think of like a scary movie part, the part that's been burnt into my brain is when he puts the knife underneath the door.
Oh,
and you're like, oh, and he chops the fingers. Oh yeah, that's burned my brain. Never forget it. So,
all right, my turn. So, as a child,
Yes.
hands down, The Changeling was the scariest movie I had ever seen. Not to get into spoilers, but when that red ball bounces down the stairs after he throws off the bridge, I literally ran out of the house screaming. I kid you not. I'm dead serious. You can ask any of my family. I ran out screaming.
That is so
and I didn't come back in to finish watching it. So, as a kid, that was it. But I have revisited that, and, you know, it's excellent. I still love it, but it doesn't, you know, have the same effect. But there was a movie that I was so disturbed by that I physically got sick from it. I got fevers and chills at the closing scene, and I went back to revisit it like a week later, and I got 30 minutes in and had to shut it off. But that's not the most scared I've been. It's the most disturbed. So the most scared I've ever been...
Wait. You didn't say what the movie was.
Hey, that's putting a little teaser out there. Hey, if you want to hear, comment on Facebook so we know you're listening. And maybe I'll divulge it at a future time. But anyways... So the scariest movie...
I want to know. I'm commenting on Facebook, just so you know.
So the scariest movie that I've seen would have to be probably Paranormal Activity, and it's probably more because of the condition I watched it in. I was in the movie theater, and I think I've talked about this in the past, but for all you new listeners, I watched it in a theater. It was a matinee during the week. I was all by myself, literally the only one in that movie theater watching, and I just kept looking over my shoulder through the whole thing, and... you know, when the broom Nazis come in, that's what I call them. You know, the ushers, the ones that usher you out of at the end of the film. So, you know, when they come in and check the emergency exits, I literally screamed out loud when I saw them out of the corner of my eye. And so, yeah, that definitely was the most scariest experience I've had watching a film, probably. And I wouldn't recommend it unless you're into that, I guess.
So before we move on to Cody... When Brian was talking, I just got a horrible memory of the actual movie that has actually scarred me for life. And definitely is the scariest movie, which I'm sure my mind is very angry at me that it finally worked its way to just have a bypass. But Monster, the
Charlize Theron movie? Oh,
yes, Monster. It scarred me for real.
Because you saw her in makeup, right? Like it was Charlize Theron's fault.
No, just the whole movie was just a horrible experience. I should definitely not have been watching it for how young I was, and it's not even considered a scary movie, is it?
It's more of a courtroom drama or something, isn't it? I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's oh my gosh, just there's one scene. I'll just describe it real quick because it's haunted me. I'll probably go have nightmares tonight because I'm talking about it. But she it's the true story of the lady that killed dudes. I don't know her name, and I don't want to know her name. But she picks up this. She gets picked up as a hitchhiker or something like that, and then she takes this dude out to the woods to shoot him, to kill him. And he's begging her not to kill him because he has a family and all this stuff. Oh man, it's messed with me deeply, deeply. It's quite bad, actually. In fact, if it wouldn't get people in trouble, there should probably actually be some type of penalty for the people who I watched it with.
They should be in jail right now, huh?
You know, right? Oh, messed with me. But anyways, yeah. So that's mine. I just barely remembered it, which it'll take me another 10 years to work a brain path around that. So cool. All right, Cody. 2 years now.
See, Disturbed. This is one of those things where I don't know how I'm going to parent my daughter, because whenever I went off and had sleepovers with my buddies in middle school and high school, we did things I don't want my daughter to do, and they all That sounds worse than I mean it. Like I mean, like movies. We always watch movies, and we always watch movies that I would not want her to watch at the age I watched them, and that's all we ever freaking did. And every time it happened,
and why now sleepovers don't happen because of that.
That's why. That makes sense.
The parents are like, "Yeah, I did stupid stuff."
Well, there was no girls, there was no drugs, there was no alcohol, but it was always, Of course, there was no girls. If you'd seen the group of us, you'd know there was no girls within miles of these sleepovers. But I remember the first time, the movie that disturbed me the most, and I think I was in middle school, is my buddy was like, "Oh, this is a great movie. We should watch it." And so I'm like, "Okay, I've never heard of it." We rent it, and it's A Clockwork Orange.
Oh.
And
oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
And so that was early on, and that disturbed me to a point where my inside parts felt wrong, and I don't know.
Have you rewatched it?
You haven't revisited it yet, have you?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, that's
that's so great. That is great.
It was rough.
I think so as a filmmaker, and you're making that movie, and you see that some 13-year-old kid has watched it and has been totally disturbed by it up until he's an adult. Does that make you proud, or does that make you
it was Stanley Kubrick, so he's probably proud, but
I would think so, right? I mean, I think he would be like, my job here is done.
But, and also, can I say that the guy at Blockbuster should be fired too for renting that movie to two 12 or 13-year-old kids? I mean, come on.
Yes.
What's wrong with you? Get it? Yeah. So, but that's not the scariest. That was most disturbing. Scariest was another sleepover that we had. We decided to do a double feature of Alien and Aliens, and I barely made it through Alien, and then when we got to Aliens, and there's a scene where Ripley and this little girl are sleeping in a room, and evil Paul Reiser, before he made Mad About You, lets a face hugger loose in their room, and it's crawling around on the ground trying to grab them and get their face, and that was it. I was done. I didn't see the rest of it. It was over. I didn't care that I looked like an idiot in front of my friends. All my pride went away, and I couldn't take it. Those things crawling around on the ground, and it was too much. It was too much, and that was the most scared I've ever been watching a movie, was in Aliens. And because Alien really primes the pump, it really does. And then James Cameron's like, yeah, let's make it crawl and grab him by the neck, and I couldn't take it. So yeah, that's it. Aliens, as a kid.
All right, moving on. What's the most romantic film you've ever seen? See, I was trying to work it to where I could make Mad Max Fury Road work. But I just couldn't work. I couldn't figure it out
trying to make that work.
Good. I really wanted it to. But again, I don't know. I'll probably think of it as you're talking. But I'll probably have to say The Notebook would probably be the most romantic movie I've seen. I mean, I've seen the 50 Shades movies too, but I don't know.
You don't know how romantic those are. They may be sexual, but they're not romantic.
But yeah, probably The Notebook. Another one, along with scary movies in the other categories that I don't watch much of, but probably The Notebook. And of course, we'll interject if something comes to mind. But again, I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of good ones. West Side Story, Serendipity, An Affair to Remember, Say Anything, and in a very weird Kaufman way, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. But probably the most romantic and truest to its definition, would probably be Moulin Rouge. And it has everything, it has the music, it has the magic, it has the Kidman, who I had a crush on for a very long time. And so that's what I'm going to say, I think. Cody.
Moulin Rouge is great. Say Anything is also fantastic. I love Say Anything.
My wife and I's song comes from that film, actually. So little Peter Gabriel.
There you go. For me, I've got to say, I'm actually a really big fan of Jane Austen movies. I haven't read the books, but I really like the films, and my favorite of all those is the Ang Lee directed Sense and Sensibility that has Alan Rickman and Hugh Grant and Emma Thompson in it, and that's a movie that I unashamedly I get a little misty towards the end when everything works out and Alan Rickman triumphs overall, because Alan Rickman should triumph overall. He's one of the most amazing actors who ever graced the screen. So
rest in peace.
Yeah. So yeah, I have to all of Sense and Sensibility, but in general, a lot of the Jane Austen films are big favorites of mine, and they're very, very romantic.
Yeah, nothing came to mind. What's the first television show you ever saw that made you think television could be more than entertainment? I'm gonna pass and answer this one last, because I don't really know if I'm 100% sure what they're asking. So I'll listen to your answers and then answer, because I don't really know.
I almost was going to pass this too. In fact, in my notes, this is unanswered, but it popped in my head probably just 5 minutes ago. And this is very late in the game in television, but seriously, I think that it's the first time that I kind of saw a change in television shows move towards a more film-like quality, I guess, if you can call it that. And it would have to be Lost. Just the way the storytelling played out, the epic music, it felt like a movie, a very long movie. And so I think that's the first time that it really kind of moved away from that entertainment and kind of started being more philosophical and just more film-like for me, I guess. I don't know. That's all I got. It's that or nothing, so take it, I guess. You're up, Cody.
My answer was Buffy the Vampire Slayer. When I saw that, I actually rented that from one of those old rental stores we used to have, Hollywood Video. And I rented it in installments off
Hollywood
DVD.
Video. Wonderful.
And just watching it, realizing it was the drama and the characters were so well written and so strongly done that I was moved on some level that most movies don't move me at. And it's just interesting. It's such an achievement because it's kind of this silly, rubber-faced, masked monster of the week kind of a show. It starts there at least, and then it goes into something so much deeper and really touches on life and decisions, and it just hit me again at the perfect time. And it was more than, like I said, not only was it more than most TV shows, for me it was deeper and moved me more than most films and a lot of books. So yeah, that was for me, and I've had the experience maybe once or twice since then, but it's rare with TV shows.
I guess I would have to give an answer, probably something from Netflix. I think that they've just been able to transform TV. So I guess to kind of rephrase the question to make sense in my mind would be what is something that can kind of compete with film? And that would have to be something from Netflix, like Orange is the New Black or House of Cards. And it makes me happy that they're not a film, that they've made it into a TV series so they can have more of it. And I think that Netflix has been able to take the time and budget and everything to not just have to make a movie, but make these long TV movies in a way. And so I find that very interesting and very cool. And Netflix is not a sponsor, even though I pretty much talked them up like they were. So, what book do you think about or revisit the most? My answer is a tie between The Sociopath Next Door and On Killing. They're fascinating books. Cody's giving me a very interesting look. But
do you need to confess something, Bryce? Are you a closet something? Or?
Right? Mostly just figuring out all the other people who are. The Sociopath Next Door talks about people that are sociopaths that live next door. The lady who wrote the book, which I should know her name, but it slips my mind at the moment, she just talks about how there's sociopaths everywhere. I think it's 25, 1 in 100, or maybe it's more than that. 4 in 100 people are sociopaths, and then they don't have any feelings at all. And it's very fascinating to know that, how to recognize. She kind of wrote the book as a warning, hey, stay away from these people. They're very dangerous. And On Killing is a book by Lieutenant Dave Grossman, who was a military psychologist, that he writes this book for like Marines and the military to kind of talk to them about, you know, what killing is like and the impact that it has on your mind and your whole person, and how it's kind of almost not necessarily essential to human survival or like you know, the population and everything like that, but that it's very good. Me describing them does them no justice. So just definitely, I mean, I can't recommend them anymore. I mean, I listened to them a billion times. So very great books. Very cool. Wonderful.
I guess the fictional book I've revisited the most would have to be probably Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card. I kind of read it at the perfect age where it just impacted me just the right way to where I kind of never forgot it. And so I revisit it quite a bit, but I remember specifically going to a track meet in Emmett, Idaho, and it was in junior high, and I sat there on the bus and read it cover to cover, and I missed all my events. I didn't care. I was just so involved in it. It was awesome. The first time I had read it, and yeah, I was just glued to it. So I went to Emmett on a field trip to read Ender's Game, so there you go.
I love Ender's Game as well. I read that one in high school, and I've actually revisited it a couple times. As I was going through all the books, the only ones that I actually really pull off the shelf a lot, there's a series of books by Roger Ebert, who wrote our quiz, called The Great Movies. And he went back and he would write these 2 or 3 page essays on movies he considered essential. They were fantastic, great movies. And the reason I revisit it so often is because I can just pull it off the shelf and read one essay. You know, it really works well. It doesn't take a lot of time. And I've had those books now. I think they just released the 4th volume, which will be the last, obviously, because he died. But the 3 volumes, I've gotten movies off there to watch for the last 5-6 years, and every time I watch the movie, I go back and reread the essay, and then I read one that I haven't seen yet and I want to be interested in. I just love the way he writes. He writes in such a way that's so interesting but also accessible, and the essay means something before I've seen it, and it means something after, and then it'll mean something later on. So yeah, I love those books. I go back to them often.
All right, next question. What album or recording artist have you listened to the most, and why? I'm guessing this just means anybody, but my favorite musician's band is Avenged Sevenfold or Volbeat, and the reason I listen to them is because I like them.
Okay.
But I just think that they sound really good. That has everything that I like in music. So those are my favorite artists. So.
My favorite band since they came out was is Pearl Jam. I was kind of really obsessed with them growing up. Like on MTV, I'd record all the news clips anytime it talked about them on VHS. And I know it's kind of dorky to talk about, but awesome. Any books that came out or magazine articles, I'd clip them. And there was just something really powerful and raw about their music that I'd never heard before, and it was that right age where it just stuck. And I still listen to them today. Still my favorite band, so that's them.
For me, it's Johnny Cash. And I didn't start listening to Johnny Cash until after I saw Walk the Line, actually. Walk the Line got me into his music, and I got the Folsom Prison album, and that's literally the only album I listened to, so it had to be the answer. I love it because the music's great, but also it's just, there's something so crazy about hearing he's in a real prison, and these are real inmates. And, you can feel the fact that they don't ever get anybody to come by like this, ever. And it's such a unique experience, and they're so keyed up, and he's so keyed up, and it's when I can put in the CD in and just listen to it from beginning to end anytime. I love it. So.
Is there a movie that you think is great or powerful or perfect, but that you never especially want to see again, and why? I had to think about this one for a while, but I came to the conclusion of Lincoln. I think it's very good, And even as I was writing this, I was like, maybe I want to watch that again. But I just, there's lots of talking, like lots and lots of up close dialogue, which is all really, really good and well done and a good movie. But I just don't think that I have so many other movies to watch. I don't think that I could make time for this one again. But I'd probably have to say Lincoln.
Okay. So I've never seen a masterpiece that I'd never want to revisit again. So this is kind of a hard question for me because I've seen quite a few controversial films that are really works of art that are beautiful in their own right, that kind of push you outside of the bubble, and I like to say that life begins outside of your comfort zone. And so I think it's kind of a healthy exercise to experience that, and so I don't think there'd ever be one that I would never want to revisit. Even the masterpiece that I mentioned before that you guys don't know the title to, that physically made me ill, I want to go back to it. So I'm kind of weird that way. There may be some boring movies that I can't think of right now that I'm just I don't have time for that right now, But if it truly is a masterpiece, I don't see never revisiting again or not wanting to revisit it.
Well, like I said, we teased this one earlier, but for me, I have two that I can think of. And one is Grave of the Fireflies because, through the course of the movie, you get to watch a 4-year-old girl starve to death. Spoiler alert. And so...
Spoiler.
And it's so well done that, the whole thing feels so real and like it's really happening. And I saw it after I had a little girl, and I don't think I can ever do it again. It was perfect. It was so I can't recommend the movie for its technical merits enough, and the fact that it achieves that in kind of the quasi anime style of Studio Ghibli is quite an achievement. It really is, and I don't ever want to watch it again. So that's that. I remember I found it on Amazon, and I was like, hey, I could finish my Studio Ghibli, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? I don't want to watch that again. So it went off the wish list after that. And then the second one is United 93, which is the Paul Greengrass movie about September 11th. And I watched that 5 or 6 times when I was a single young man, and it's incredibly good. It's really hard-hitting. And then, again, I got married, and I had a little girl, and I was watching it after that, and there's people calling home to say bye to their families and stuff, and I couldn't finish it. So, and...
Yeah, that
one's been real tough for me ever since then. I own it, and I would like to watch it again, I think, but there's things in it that just hit too close to home now that are very difficult to get through. So, yeah, those are my two.
I think I didn't mention this, but I haven't seen Showa, but I think of all the films, an 8-hour, 9-hour film about the Holocaust, I think would just be a one-time event for me. So I haven't seen it yet, but I can predict that would be my choice.
All right. What movie have you seen more times than any other? I think this goes without me actually answering it for myself. If you've listened, but definitely Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I believe I've seen it every single year of my life, and that's definitely more times than I've ever watched any other movie. Maybe 101 Dalmatians might take the cake, but Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is going to be my answer.
Mine's a perennial favorite too, but a Christmas movie, and partly due to the fact that I watch it every year. I've seen it the most times, so obviously It's a Wonderful Life. And even if I didn't watch it every year, that's still at the very top of my list, probably top 3, maybe even the top, just because I've seen it so much. So yeah, definitely that one.
Well, I know that I wore grooves in my Star Wars VHS growing up. There was, a certain part when they're walking down a Death Star corridor when it would always go wonky on me, and
That's
so
awesome.
There's definitely Star Wars got watched a ton. As an adult, when I discovered The Red Shoes 4 or 5 years ago, my wife, it's a movie about ballerinas, and now when I put it in, she goes, again? So...
Yes, that's awesome.
I've watched that a lot since I discovered it. But also, I remembered when I was a kid, I had Ghostbusters 2. I had a big fight with my mom because I wanted to watch it for like the 4th time in one day, and I'd seen it so many times, whatever else, and she was like, "Dude, don't turn it on again. I can't stand it. Let's do it." And we just fought and fought and fought, and I pushed it in and started it anyway, and then I felt really guilty. So I must have been watching that one a lot too for it to cause a family problem. So yeah, those are my 3. I had to pick 3. So
fair enough.
All right, what was your first R-rated movie, and did you like it? Saving Private Ryan through the mirror of my living room. No, probably the first one that I actually like sat down and watched would be probably Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Since I watched it when I was really little, it was censored, of course, from the best part. In fact, it's been just so common just to mute it at the car scene that we just barely have started doing it, and everybody just laughs the entire time because it's just funny because it's like, ooh, risky, it's cheesy but fun. So yeah, definitely probably Planes, Trains, and Automobiles because of how much I've seen it and how young we watched it. But
so the first one that I remember seeing, this is an interesting generational thing because, like I mentioned before, I grew up watching countless rated R movies way younger than I should have, but they were all edited and they came on Fox and I loved it. And so my son and I, we get in arguments all the time. He's like, well, you watched it as a kid. And so there's a lot of that. And I did work at a video store, so I did watch a lot of stuff like growing up. But I would have to say the first one that I remember like seeing in a movie theater with my family, which I'm still surprised to this day that they took me, but it was at a little discount theater in Nampa. It was Young Guns, and we went as a family, and I don't know why they took me to a rated R movie because that wasn't really something they did all the time, but we went there, and so I guess that's it. And I'm still waiting for the sequel to be released on Blu-ray. By the way,
did you like it though? Was it good?
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, I still love it. Yeah, I watch it.
Well, see, we took some time to type these up beforehand, and when I was writing this, I thought that Aliens, because I remembered it so much because it scared me so bad, was the first rated R movie I ever saw. And then I started thinking about it, and I realized we'd watched Alien before Aliens, and then I think Clockwork Orange was before both of those.
When did you watch The Thing?
Well, The Thing was on TV, so I don't know if that counts, because my mom, heaven bless her, did not show it to us unedited, thank goodness, or I would have lost the powers of speech and probably been in, I don't know, I would have, anyway. But, so I think it technically was A Clockwork Orange, which I don't think was actually rated R. I think it was X or something like that when it came out. So, jeez. But yeah, it was either one of those two, either Alien or A Clockwork Orange, and in either case, they both were horrible, scarring experiences that I did not enjoy. So, yeah, I went a long time in my life after those experiences not watching any rated R movies, like years. So, yeah, I got started too early and it scared me off.
All right. What is your favorite... what is?
That should be who are, weird. I think. Who are.
Yes. Who are your favorite leading men, past and present? Past, since I haven't really watched a ton of old films, I'll probably have to pick Jimmy Stewart from the ones that I have seen. Just wonderful and great and amazing. And then this is tough, but probably Edward Norton for the present.
Well, it's plural, it's leading men, as the question says.
That's true. See, I just recently watched Fight Club again, and so I've got a little heartthrob for Mr.
You know who you're forgetting? You're going to kick yourself. You're forgetting DiCaprio and Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, I know. See, Jake is beautiful. Jake's beautiful.
I love the way you describe your favorite actors. Right under there. Amazing.
Yeah, it's very man-crushy.
They're favorites for a reason, right? I mean, they're great actors and they're beautiful humans.
I swoon a little over mine too, Bryce. Don't feel bad.
See, But Brad Pitt, I mean Leonardo, I mean Tom Hardy, he's great. I mean, hey, you got your heartthrobs, it's all good. Everyone has a man crush. No use in hiding it.
That's awesome.
Anyways, I have a couple at plural, but moving on.
Okay, so my favorite from the golden age of cinema would have to be James Stewart. I love him. Everything he's been in, I love it that I've seen. Today, so you guys, if you've listened to previous episodes, you know I kind of have a slight man crush on Ryan Gosling. I know. So he's definitely at the top of my list now. And that was after watching Drive, the Nicholas Winding Refn film. It's weird because when I watch a movie that they just wow me on, I kind of get like a little obsessed with them. Not like creepy obsessed, don't get me wrong. But so Leo DiCaprio, that's another one. Christopher Walken, I love watching him in just about everything, just because I love how he phrases things. It's just so, I just like listening to him and his performances. And
hey, he was great in Jungle Book when he got to sing and be the king of the monkeys. Yeah,
just great. Dustin Hoffman, I love the little nuances, like so Little Big Man. That's one of my favorite movies, favorite Western. Well, yeah, I guess it's kind of a Western, but The Graduate I just barely watched not very long ago, and I'm just so impressed by his acting ability. But one specific thing that I like to pull up, like, have you guys seen Stranger Than Fiction?
Yes.
Yeah. So he does such a great job in that with the little nuances and mannerisms that he creates for that persona. Like, just watching him eat yogurt, which he does several times in that movie, I'm fascinated by. And so it's those little things that I really, look for and like. Robert Downey Jr. And Bill Murray. Yeah, those are some of my favorites. So.
Okay, well, past for me, we've all mentioned Jimmy Stewart, so there you go. He's the leading contender. I would also have to put Cary Grant down. I mean, North by Northwest and His Girl Friday. Just, he could do everything. He could be kind of creepy and menacing in things like Notorious or Suspicion, and he could also be really charming. Spencer Tracy, fantastic. I love him, and again, a gift for comedy, a gift for real decency that came across. George C. Scott blew me away as Patton and in Anatomy of a Murder. He had a real power behind him. Speaking of Changeling, he carries that movie really well. Humphrey Bogart has always been a favorite. And John Wayne, even though people think he's a movie star, I think of him as a real actor. You see some of the stuff he does in The Searchers, things he communicates with just a look, things that he communicates with a few words, things that you couldn't say because of censorship back then. He gets across in more powerful ways than you can when you just say things. So I really think he's not given enough credit as an acting talent versus a movie star. Today, my favorite living actor is probably Michael Keaton. I really like Michael Keaton a lot. I think he does. I mean, you look at him in The Founder, and I was watching it, and he's doing so much, again, without talking. He does so much, and I just love I just can't keep my eyes off him. I have a thing for Ryan Gosling as well. I have to echo that, as well as Jake Gyllenhaal. We just lost him. We talked about earlier, Alan Rickman. I don't know if he was a leading man, but he should have been. He is one of my favorite actors, and I've also gained a lot of appreciation for Michael Caine, even that I've been looking up some of his older stuff to watch it. So yeah, those would be mine.
Have you seen Clean and Sober? Michael Keaton, an early performance.
No.
That's another really great drug movie to make you never want to do drugs again. But he's excellent in that. I don't know what year it came out, but you should look
I really
it up.
want to see. I hear a lot of good things about Mr. Mom.
Yeah,
and I want to see. I've seen Gung Ho, which is also great. So his stuff recently has been phenomenal. Absolutely. And the great thing about him is he's got this big catalog I can keep exploring that I haven't seen before. So,
All right, moving on. What is your favorite, or why does it say what is?
I don't know. I changed it on mine. But yeah.
So, who is your favorite who are your favorite leading ladies, past and present? Again.
All right, Bryce is done. All right, Brian.
So
yeah,
yeah.
This is a hard one for Bryce.
No, it's not.
If you
that
haven't
hard.
listened to us before, then.
But in the past, I can't really name any besides Marilyn Monroe, so that speaks. So, you know, Marilyn Monroe is my favorite leading lady in the past. For present, I picked Alyssa Vikander. Ooh, that was a mouthful. Daisy Ridley and Jennifer Lawrence. There's others that are great, but just don't pop into my mind.
Yeah, I thought about Daisy Ridley. I mean, I've only seen her in the one thing, and that's, I think, what kind of, like, stopped me from doing it. But she was so good in Star Wars.
It's the reason I like the movie. I can honestly say that she's the reason that I like the movie. But, so yeah, those are the ones that have popped into my mind right away.
Okay, so from years past, I'd probably have to say Audrey Hepburn. Just always been fascinated by her beauty and just how she acts. Today, Nicole Kidman, I had a crush on for the longest time that went well into my adulthood. Natalie Portman.
Can I say this? I'm really glad, because at first my thought was, gosh, we can't talk about actresses just about how attractive they are and whatever. It's like, but we did it with the guys too, so we're okay.
Yeah,
I think we're covered.
We're equal opportunity podcasters, right? So, Nicole Kidman, Natalie Portman, Amy Adams, Alicia Vikander, just like Bryce, Charlize Theron, Kate Beckinsale.
Great.
Margot Robbie is an up-and-coming one that I really like to see now. And Amber Heard, I like her.
Margot took it. She took my heart, and she said, I said, I will go to all your movies. And I did, and I went to Suicide Squad, and you broke my heart. You broke my heart. You betrayed me with that horrible thing. Anyways. In fact, I was going to put it on the list, and then I couldn't, because I was like, but that one time.
That's funny.
Wow.
So anyways, moving on.
Brian, were you finished? Did you have anything to add? Okay. For me, I had Donna Reed on there, and that's just off of two movies. That's off It's a Wonderful Life, which Donna Reed may be the reason I entered puberty. I think so.
That bush, right?
I think it just pushed me over the edge. It was right there, and
That's not what I meant. I don't know.
Hey, what happens on
the towel, the bathrobe is what I was talking about. Oh boy.
Whoa.
Welcome to the Cinematic Syndrome, where Brian's a pervert. Sorry about that. That came out totally wrong. I did not mean it that way.
And Cody's gonna die of laughter.
You okay, Cody?
Sorry, it's late. It's late. I'm tired. What's funny, I didn't even get what you were saying for a second, and then when I did, I was like, my gosh, that sounded terrible.
It did sound really bad, and I did not mean it that way. No pun intended, but whatever.
Wow. But yes, okay, Donna Reed, and then,
oh boy.
And then Katharine Hepburn was another one you can watch her early in her career, late in her career. She's just uniformly awesome. I would add an echo to Audrey Hepburn. I just love her stuff as well. But also Lauren Bacall was a big a one that she's so unique. The voice and the style she can get across. She's one of the guys, but also not. And yeah, she was great. Another echo is Amy Adams. I put her on my list. She's way up there. I like Amy Adams a lot, especially after Arrival. I thought she was phenomenal this year in Arrival. The rest of my list is much older actresses. I realized that my wife and I were going over this, and she's like, "They're all really old." It's like, "Oh, are they?" But the Emma Thompson was another one.
Yeah, she's
I did put Meryl Streep, and Meryl Streep is such the obvious choice. I almost felt bad putting it down, but I was like, "But I really do like Meryl Streep, so I have to put her down." And then Judi Dench is another favorite. I like her because she can do period pieces. She was great in a movie called Philomena. That's one of my, favorite recent watches. She's M on James Bond. She does great on that. So, yeah, those are mine. And, real quickly, I am going to go plug in my computer before it dies. So you all keep going, and I will be right back.
Hey, this is Cinematic Syndrome where we're prepared.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So we can bag on Cody all we want.
He's not here.
He's off camera.
Hey, he brought it on himself. So, favorite modern filmmaker. I'm going to have to say I really love... there's two that I like, and I can't pick. So, Quentin Tarantino and David Fincher. We talked about David Fincher earlier in the show, and that's so exciting for me. He makes great movies, and Tarantino has blown my mind multiple times. So, they're both on it. David Fincher and Quentin Tarantino.
So, by modern, does that mean living?
I don't know. I guess I would have to say, like, modern is 80s and on.
Okay. Well, because it's kind of weird that they just say modern filmmaker and not, like, ask who your favorite director is or whatever. So, yeah, I echo Quentin Tarantino. I've seen all of his movies pretty much from Pulp Fiction on in the theater. And, yeah, I just get excited. That's probably almost the most excited I get with a film director. Like, when I hear he has a new one coming out, like, I get, like, physically antsy and excited about. And very close is Christopher Nolan. I think he's a more... I think he's a better filmmaker. But I think Quentin Tarantino has more passion almost for what he does, if that makes any sort of sense.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Like, Christopher Nolan, his movies are very intricate and detailed. But Tarantino, you can just see the passion in his projects that he makes.
They have his stamp all over it.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
definitely.
It's a Tarantino film. So, but if I could name one that's died, Kubrick would be, on there for sure.
Definitely Kubrick. But yeah, just to reassess for those who were missing, I said my most favorite modern filmmakers are Tarantino and David Fincher. And
I said Christopher Nolan and Tarantino and Kubrick. So
I guess Kubrick is a modern filmmaker. He counts.
Yeah, we had a debate about it while you were gone. Like, what does that mean?
Kind of.
Yeah, I consider
kind
modern
of
still
a debate. It's mostly just me saying I don't know and throwing a date, but it counts.
I took it as living filmmaker, but it doesn't say that. So
it does not.
I picked Guillermo del Toro to the surprise of no one.
Yep.
So there you go.
The next question is least favorite modern filmmaker. I said anyone that works with Eddie Redmayne.
Okay. That's fair, I guess.
Yeah, hatred. I don't know. I feel so bad for hating the guy, but I do. I don't hate him. I just dislike him. I don't know. Yeah. He's not my guy. No big deal.
Are you done, Rose?
Yes. Yeah.
I didn't want to cut you off, but I'm chomping at the bit to go to this next question.
Go for it.
No, I struggled for a long time to think of one for this too, but I'm gonna, and I put NA on my notes here, but I'm gonna say Woody Allen.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm not on the Allen bandwagon. Yeah. I've seen.
I'm not either, but I wouldn't say it in public. What's the?
Well, I've seen a lot of them, but I'm just, and they're good. They're well made. I'm just not. Yeah, he's my least favorite. He's like the most overhyped one, I think, out of all of them. And I do have some that I really like, but like I said, when I see a Woody Allen movie like in the pawn shop, I'm like, on to the next type thing. And Cody, I buy anything.
Yeah.
So
that's actually a fairly I have this thing where I'm like, if somebody's acclaimed, then I have to at least have a respect for that. But,
I do. Don't get me wrong.
I've watched 2 or 3 Woody Allen movies, and I did not enjoy the experience any time. So, I didn't have an answer for that one, so maybe I'll piggyback, and we'll just pile on Woody Allen tonight. And
yeah,
that's an interesting answer. It's a very honest answer that
I was afraid to say it, but
I don't think I've seen a Woody Allen movie.
They're just the rhythm. I can never get into the rhythm of them. They're really off. Yeah.
Yep.
Because like I'm very familiar with the name, but then I went to look it up. And I was like, I don't recognize any of these movies. So hey, Woody Allen, you stink. Not our fault. Moving on. Oh my gosh, I don't know where I'm at. Oh yeah, what film do you love that most people seem to hate? I honestly don't have an answer to this question. I'm really not sure. A movie that I love that most people seem to hate. I think I hate when people hate and love when people love, so there we go. I don't have an answer.
Well, I didn't have an answer to this before this podcast started. Not this episode, but the previous ones. And I'm going to have to say Burton's Planet of the Apes. And also,
see, it said most people. It didn't say me, but yes. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, but most people pan it too. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair title, I think. And then also Paul Haggis's Crash, which
good answer.
That is a good answer.
Good answer. Because there is some vehement hate out there.
There really is.
Dang it, Brian. That was good answers. Mine
I did my homework.
Mine doesn't suck, but like mine was Alien Resurrection, which is almost anybody you ask is going to say the bottom poo of the Alien series. Just everybody hates it, and I think that's the reason that I like it so much. Is I didn't see it till years after I heard that over and over and over again, and sometimes that's a great way to watch a movie when you expect it to be awful. And then you're just constantly surprised. You're like, well, that was good. Well, that was good.
Yeah.
Well, that was good. And that's basically what happened to me the entire 2 hours. And at the end, I thought about it for a couple days. It didn't just leave me. You know, I thought it had great themes in it. I loved the performances. The design was cool. It had all the alien stuff in it. So I liked it better than Alien 3. And maybe better than Prometheus, too. I have to be totally honest. It's probably not as well made. But I liked it better, and you get on any internet thing, type in Alien Resurrection, and it's just, I want it to die, how could they? It's worst thing ever. So,
I thought of one. It kind of doesn't really pertain so much now in my life, but when I was younger, would probably have to be the Star Wars prequels. Especially the first one. I really loved the first one. Now, not as much. I've seen where had gone wrong and where others were right. But I would have to say that I liked them when others hated them. Would have to be the Star Wars prequels. So moving on, what film do you hate that most people seem to love? Pretty simple. Suicide Squad. Pretty much despise that movie.
Do most people love that movie though?
Oh yeah, people. Well, I think so. More than they like it more. I think people like it more than they like Batman vs Superman. And that movie, I actually didn't think was too super horrible.
My kids loved it. Suicide Squad.
Oh, it's so horrible. Like there's posters everywhere.
Have you, as they said in The Shining Hotel, have you corrected them yet?
Right.
I haven't seen it yet, so I don't even know what to correct them. But I like that reference. That was awesome.
Just don't waste your time. For reals. Makes me sad that it was made.
All right, my turn.
Yep.
So this probably will come as no surprise to people that listen to the show, but I'm going to say Marvel movies and really superhero films in general. That's Nolan's excluded, obviously. But
and Unbreakable?
Yeah. I said in general. There are exceptions.
Well, the thing is, though, you have you seen any of the Marvel movies, though?
I have. I've seen Iron Man 1 and 2. What else is there? I don't know.
Hey, fair enough.
Hey, honestly, the best Marvel movie I've seen is Guardians of the Galaxy. The best one.
And I haven't seen that yet. And I'm sure I'd love it. It seems like something I'd right up my alley.
Yeah, I have to second Brian, on that whole Marvel movie thing.
See, I have posters of the Marvel movies, so I'm a big fan.
Oh, never mind. Oh yeah, I guess we're.
Well, you're most people, Cody.
Again, twice. Mine was The Hateful Eight is the one I put up there. I don't know if most people love it, but I know a lot of people do. And they are wrong, and that's their right, because this is America, and it's the greatest country on earth.
Those who have listened will know the accuracy and the inaccuracy of this answer. Because when we first watched it, he despised it, and then we revisited it, and he said that he kind of liked it. So
I don't know if here's where I've come to. This is my mature understanding of Hateful Eight. I understand where he was coming from. I think I understand what he was trying to get at. And it's still a movie that is really, really difficult to watch and is not a pleasant thing to go through.
It's true. I
used to think nothing. I used to think he didn't know what he was talking about. He didn't have a plan. He was an idiot. I've given up on that. I think he did have a plan and he had a point. I just don't think it was a point that was well made.
I think give it time. It's going to be like fine wine to you. Like, the longer it ages, the better you'll...
Or like toilet paper, and it just keeps dissolving in the toilet.
I like my analogy better, dang it.
All right, moving on. So it says, tell me about a movie-going experience you'll never forget, not just because of the movie, but because of the circumstances in which you saw it. So my movie is the third Spider-Man movie.
Oh no!
My friends were going to go see it back when movies actually came out on Thursday night. When it was an actual midnight premiere, not now when they come out Wednesday at 4. I mean, it was an actual midnight premiere, and my friends were going to go see it, and it was one of the very first I was ever going to go to. And so I asked my mom to buy me a ticket, and I get it, I go, and I see my ticket, and I'm like, dudes, I got my ticket. And we notice that it's a different showing and a different, like, theater, not like a different screen, not in the same room. And I was freaking out. I was like, I'm not going to see this movie by myself. You know, that's not going to be fun. And one of my friends comes up with the idea, don't tell them. Just get in line with us and just go through. And I was like, okay, we'll see how it goes, see how it works. So we get up to the ticket taker guy, and he's like, you don't, wrong theater, buddy. You know, this isn't even at the same time. And I don't really know what happened from that point to...
But cops were involved.
I just remember, I think I might have blacked out a little bit, but I did get into the theater. And so everything worked out. I don't know how it happened.
Wow.
But I watched the movie with my friends. Too bad the movie sucked. But, yeah, that's my experience.
Yes, it did.
So.
Wow.
Well, my experience, Paranormal Activity excluded, which that was kind of a singular event. I would have to say in Boise, there's a movie theater called, I'm not sure if it's still there, but it was called the Egyptian Theater. And my wife and I saw every single Mummy movie and 2 of the Scorpion King films in that theater. It kind of became an anniversary tradition because they always came out like around our anniversary time, and so we'd make our pilgrimage to Boise to watch that in the Egyptian Theater, and it was a cool experience. So.
Well, mine, I thought of several positive ones. I'll only mention one, and then I thought of one negative one is when Bryce was talking. One, I got to see 2001: A Space Odyssey on a 70mm print in Maryland at the AFI-owned Silver Theater, which is a fully restored theater from the 1920s. And it was as awesome as all of that sounds. There was a ton of people there. We had an intermission. It was the way that movie should be watched, with people who appreciated it, and it was awesome. And I got to take my little brother, Josh, who had never seen it, to go see it, and he was blown away by the whole thing. And I think if we'd watched it at home, he would have been bored. But with the combination of everybody around him kind of giving him that positive, like, this is so awesome energy, And, being in that theater and it being such a huge, clear, amazing-looking picture and sound, it sold it. So that was great. The negative one, I'm going to name drop, but you know what? They screwed me over, so that's what's going to happen. I don't know what it's called. I think it's a Paramount in Idaho Falls. I've only been to it once, and it wasn't really their fault, but I went to go see World War Z there, the first one, which we were talking about. And I'm in there watching World War Z, and I noticed the place is a little dirty, like not terrible, but a little bit, and kind of old and broken down, and that's fine. I don't mind that. But twice during the movie, something fell out of the ceiling and landed on me and crawled around. And so I don't know what exactly it was.
Oh, that's awesome.
I am freaking out right now.
And it freaked me out. And I was trying to hit it, whatever it was, but you can't see in there because it's all dark.
Oh,
and once, it stopped. I didn't feel anything for a little bit. Okay. And then I swear it happened again. So I don't know what things were falling out of the ceiling that were crawling around, but that's the last time I ever went to that theater. So
I literally feel things
I was watching
crawling on
World
me right
War
now.
Z, which wasn't a super scary movie, but it was a little tense. It did not help that there was things crawling on me. So,
if you were watching a screening of Alien, wouldn't that have been perfect?
You got the 4D exclusive.
Yeah,
that's right.
There you go.
All right.
Can I say this though?
Yeah.
I didn't walk out of that theater, so
hey, there you go.
I paid for it.
What aspect of modern theatrical movie going do you like least? The other people at the theater. Also, I kind of wish that it was more of a production, kind of how it's a program and an intermission and kind of all
curtains.
That stuff.
I wish they had curtains that covered it. The AFI theater did, and the curtains open, and
I kind of wish that they still had that. It wasn't just, hey, let's go sit down and watch this film, but it was the big production of everything that it used to be. I think that would be really cool to see a movie like that.
That's great. I like your guys' answers better. Dang it. Mine was just kind of the lack of respect from a lot of kids and some adults. The price of admission, concession, but in the same token that we mentioned that people are very distracting, there is something that's very that makes it more palpable, the experience when you're watching with a group of people.
Yeah, definitely.
And so when it works great, and then when it fails miserably.
The difference, I think, is when a person is just being disrespectful and not paying attention to the movie, their cell phone goes off or their kids are being stupid and annoying. But when the audience is engaged in the movie and you get the collective sigh or gasp, it makes the whole experience, and it's just awesome. Just a quick example, because it was so amazing, watching when we all went and watched The Revenant, and the bear falls on top of him, and there's just that that groan, it was so good. It just makes the whole experience that much better. So I get what you're saying.
I guess we're all kind of describing the same thing. Mine specifically is cell phones, though. People that don't want to disconnect, and they don't want to, they want to keep one foot in whatever's going on Facebook, and then, 1 foot in the movie. And as soon as they flip the phone open, it's so frickin' bright that it, glares in your eyes. I cannot stand that. I've gotten so close to throwing things at people. I haven't done it yet.
That's what makes movies going so... great going to the theater is you get that disconnect. You get we're going to this world now, so let's pay attention and learn as much as we can about it. Don't pay however much it costs to sit on your phone. That makes zero sense to me. Cut it off.
You guys know that one of my favorite comedians is Mike Birbiglia, and he does this one bit where he's in a movie theater and this guy answers the phone and says, "Who's this?" And he goes off about not only was the movie, was that call so important to answer, he didn't even know who it was. And he had to answer it. And that's just, I've seen people like that, and it's pathetic and really distracting and annoying. So,
what aspect of movie going during your childhood do you miss the most? I didn't really go to any movies that I really remember. Not really a lot of them. Like I said earlier, being late to movies. I remember being late to movies and coming in like the middle of them.
You don't miss, right?
No, now I'm there like super ridiculously early. Like most of the times the movie before isn't over yet, so I have to like awkwardly stand out.
Wow, that's early.
I like going early. I like to pick my seat. It's definitely a process to go to the movie with me, but
understood.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Brian.
Are we on a new question?
The childhood question.
Yeah.
Oh.
Seeing movies as a child, what part do you miss?
Well, to piggyback on Cody, the curtains, I like that. I miss summer matinees, which, I think they still have them, but I'm an adult now, so I don't get to go to the theater every day.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a big thing, I do that all the time. So, anyways, I guess those, yeah.
Well, and there's two things I miss is the absence of cell phones, because when I was little, nobody had them, so that wasn't a thing. But also, and I'm torn about this because digital projection makes for great picture quality, and it's uniformly awesome throughout the whole thing. And yet, part of me really misses the film in the projector and the little, cigarette burn that pops up, and then when the reel shifts, it's kind of rough. Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing The Mummy Returns, and the film got caught in the projector and it burned through. And that was just really cool to see all those things. So I do not hate digital projection. I think it's really good. But one half of me misses the kind of clickety-clack that you used to hear, back in the projection booth. You could hear it. You could hear it start to pick up speed when it was starting. And the romantic part of me misses that. So...
All right. Have you ever damaged a friendship or thought twice about a relationship because you disagreed about whether a movie was good or bad? This is another one that I don't really have an answer for. I haven't really argued movies much, so I don't really have an answer for that question. Moving on.
All right. We talked about this before, but probably the closest to it was Planet of the Apes with Cody. Our heated battle. So if you guys want to hear it, it's buried somewhere in the episode list. But I guess I should have found out which episode so you guys could listen to it. But
and it's a series of episodes too. It's not just one episode.
Is it? Oh yeah, we did revisit it, huh? And then Crash as well. Sure, I'll throw that in there too. But Planet of the Apes, we got pretty heated. And I'd never, throw away a friendship over that. But, boy, I would have gotten a fist fight had we been in the same room, probably.
Yes! Let's do it in the same room.
Well, it got really rough, the first one. It was the Tim Burton show. It was the Tim Burton show. And we were arguing about it somehow. And then the next day, Brian sends me like a 4-page text defending his position and a longer email or something like that. And so... we go back and forth, and we decide to have another show. And the first half of that second show is this really conciliatory, like, no, this is good about it. No, I understand your position. But then at some point, that one devolves too, and we turn into this angry back and forth thing. So we've kind of just left that one alone afterwards. Agree to disagree.
Yeah.
If I have any power around here, we will revisit it just for you fans.
The only one I didn't put that one, but that's a really good one. The only one that I put was there's a guy at work who loves Lord of the Rings, and talking about how much he loved the films and whatever else. And we were talking about the Hobbit movies, which had come out, and I didn't like the Hobbit movies as much. They weren't as good as Lord of the Rings, and I was disappointed because if I got tattoos, I would have a tattoo of Guillermo del Toro, and he was going to make the Hobbit films, and I had read all about how he was going to make them and how different they were going to be than what they turned out. So this guy, being a huge Tolkien Lord of the Rings fan, I described to him in loving detail what Guillermo del Toro would have done with these films and how amazing it was going to be. And they were going to do sky replacement. It was going to be like a fairy tale. And he listens to this whole thing, and then he's like, well, that sounds awful. I'm really glad they did what they did. And so, like, since then, I've been very cold to him. And I can't talk to somebody and I just didn't pick up at all that he was not being sold in this amazing thing I was describing, and so that's the one time. It wasn't really like a close friendship. It was just a work thing, but yeah.
All right. Well, what movies have you dreamed about? Again, I don't think I've dreamed. I don't know if I've dreamed about a movie. Pass.
Okay.
Well, this one was hard for me too. I had to go way back into the recesses of my mind to think of my childhood, and because I don't dream about movies either. I mean, the most disturbing film I've watched, I didn't dream about it. You know what I mean? So, when I was a kid, I would have to say, I'd have recurring nightmares. The one I remember the most is Jason chasing me, and I remember hiding under my bed in my dream. Like, I'd hide under there, and he'd always find me. He'd just always be there. And but I had him with the Mummy too. I remember specifically, and then Michael Myers. So yeah, but Jason was the most happened the most in my dreams for some reason. So.
See, my mom's showing me scary stuff. She showed us the TV miniseries of Salem's Lot that came out in 1979, I think, which is a favorite now, but at the time, I had nightmares about little vampire boys floating outside my bedroom window and scratching it with their fingernails, which happens in the film, and it transferred directly to my nightmares. That's the only time I could remember something like that happening.
Was a great film. You're the one that led me onto that one, and I bought it and watched it. It's great, yeah.
All right, last question. What concession stand item can you not live without? Popcorn that I have personally buttered, and a soda pop. Some soda.
I would have to concur with you. Popcorn and soda. That's debatable. Popcorn. That's the main one for me.
See, for me, most of the time, food is a distraction from the experience, and so.
Well, the popcorn's gone before the movie even starts. It's like during the trailers.
Well, and I worked at a movie theater, which ruined popcorn for me, because I know what happens to that popcorn when we don't sell it.
Do not go down this road. You have ruined so much for me in the past. I don't want this to be ruined. I can't go to the Paramount Theater anymore. I mean, what the hell, man? Seriously.
Anyway, so popcorn's been ruined for me, but if I was going to get one, I always get Junior Mints. I'm a fan. Fresh breath and also kind of refreshing.
And it also lets everyone know that you're an old man.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Anyways.
Hey, to each their own.
Yes.
But
thanks for sticking it out with us and learning a little bit about us. We are Cinematic Syndrome. Please tune in. Go like us on Facebook.
Leave comments.
Yeah.
Please.
Yes. Leave your own answers to these questions. I'd be really curious to hear other people's answers.
We'll post the blank questionnaire in the comments for you guys to answer.
Maybe we should do a question a day or something.
Maybe if you fill it out, maybe we'll give you something. Maybe.
Ooh.
Maybe. We'll decide if anyone fills it out. So, test the waters. But also, if you don't know, go like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, tell all your friends about us. We're on iTunes, and subscribe. Make sure you go in and leave us a review about what you think about the show. 5 stars is what we like.
The only acceptable choice.
It is. But yeah, we are new and rebranded, and we hope that you like it. Let us know, but please come in and talk with us. That's what we've started this whole journey for. But this is Cinematic Syndrome. I'm Bryce Thompson.
I'm Brian Hammond.
And I'm Cody Ryrie.
And we'll talk to you next time.
Make sure to follow Cinematic Syndrome on Facebook and Twitter. The following views, opinions, and commentary are the sole property of the Cinematic Syndrome podcast. Any unauthorized reproduction without prior consent is prohibited. Any incidental music, audio clips, or film trailers are used for the sole purpose of film criticism commentary, as allowed under the Fair Use Act.